Hello FPL managers and welcome back to another video. My name is Jack and today we're going over the players and teams to target for the first 5 game weeks of the upcoming FPL campaign. If you guys are looking forward to it or are new to the channel, leave a like and subscribe. We're going to be uploading plenty of FPL videos in the build up to the new FPL season and of course all the way across the new year. As always, have notification bells turned on so you don't miss any future FPL videos. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So first off, let's have a look at a team that I think have probably the best fixtures in their starting 5. Probably between them or Man City, I would say. They've got some really good starting fixtures. Forest at home game week 1. I really like Arsenal options as good picks for the start of the season. The good thing with Arsenal as well is that they are a side with plenty of strong FPL options, whether it's defenders, forwards or midfielders. I think especially Gabriel Jesus, he's not on this list right now, but as a forward option this year, he could be really good if he stays healthy for the whole of this season. Couldn't quite do that last season, but when he did play, he was very good. He registered a good amount of shots and shots on target. Actually, these stats were the highest out of any one of his Arsenal teammates per 90, so I do like Gabriel Jesus, a good pick here. But my 3 favourite picks right now would be Bukayo Saka, Odegaard and Ben White. I have predicted their prices here. Saka was starting at around 8 mil last season. I've got him going up to 9.5. Odegaard I've got as a big price rise up to 9.0. For a player that scored 212 points in a season, I struggle to see how he can't be priced so highly, especially since he is such a consistent return. He's got the potential to jump on huge bonus points as well. He's in a really good team that have performed fairly consistently across the whole season, so I do think Odegaard will be a fairly high price riser coming into the new FPL season. He's going to be up there with some of the more premium midfielders in FPL, and Ben White I really like in defence. I think he's going to go up to 5.5. We could see some of those Arsenal centre-backs be around 5.5 or even 6 mil as well. So hopefully Ben White does remain as one of the cheapest starting Arsenal FPL defenders. This was the case last FPL season. Ben White generally is a little bit cheaper than some of those other Arsenal lads at the back. So hopefully this theme can continue. So I like him if he is priced at 5.5. Of course, if he is at 5 as well, that is a huge steal. But I would still be looking at Ben White at 5.5 mil. First off, let's talk about Bukayo Saka. For me, he's still my favourite Arsenal player. Yes, he is going to be more expensive than Odegaard and Martinelli most likely. Gabriel Jesus as well, he'll probably still be more expensive than. That is because he's on penalties for Arsenal. That's such a huge asset for Bukayo Saka that he's on penalties. It provides him with so many extra chances throughout the season. And as you can see from the stats, he did have a significantly higher expected goals figure than Odegaard as a result. A 10.41 expected goal stat compared to Odegaard with 8.89. Bukayo Saka was XG was also higher than Gabriel Martinelli's as well, so I really like Bukayo Saka. I think he will have one of the highest XGs out of any Arsenal midfielder or forward this FPL season. He put up 14 goals and 12 assists last year, a really good score involvement, so 26 across the campaign. Had a decent expected assist stat of 6.18. Definitely more of a goal scorer this year. He has been good at putting up a good XA numbers in previous seasons. Not quite as high this year compared to his expected goals figure, but for a player that notched up over 202 FPL points, a very good season for Bukayo Saka. Great underlying numbers, slightly better than Odegaard, and he's on penalties as well. That is why I do like Bukayo Saka compared to Odegaard and Martinelli. Speaking of Odegaard, though, I think he's the one thing he will have over Bukayo Saka is that he's a little bit cheaper at 9.0, could potentially be 8.5 as well. He had a great season for Arsenal, put up 15 goals, a really good goal scoring season, had 8 assists as well. His XG was very low compared to his goals output, though he did score quite a few goals from around the edge of the box, scored some great goals this season. So I think Odegaard, whilst his XG not quite as high as Saka, is still a very good option at 9.0. I think it's a reasonable price for him. At 212 points, made him one of the highest scoring players in FPL last season, one of the top scoring midfielders as well. So I do like Martin Odegaard for those reasons. His expected assist figure is a little bit higher than some of those Arsenal midfielders as well. In Martinelli and Saka, he does create a few more chances, so that is also a good asset that Odegaard has. But I'd like him at 9 mil. Probably slightly prefer him to Martinelli. Martinelli could also be a decent option. I'd expect Odegaard and Martinelli to be at a similar price, but I like Odegaard because when he scores, he jumps on bonus points, and that is a reason that did help him to outscore Bukayo Saka last season on FPL points terms. Despite not having as many involvements as him, he got on bonus points a lot more frequently, and he was able to pick up those extra 10 points there over Bukayo Saka. And looking at a defensive option here, Ben White, I like him at 5.5. It could be at 5.0 as well, but I think it's hard to price a defender at 5 mil that had 15 clean sheets last season and 5 assists, an absolutely massive clean sheet tally for Arsenal. One of the premium defences in the Premier League last season. I think their defensive options are going to see quite a high increase in price. Ben White, though, still has the attacking potential or attacking threat that he showed later on in the season to warrant this price tag. A 3 expected assist figure across the year, obviously not very high, but he did find himself getting into the box a lot later on in the season. I really liked his attacking positioning and attacking output in terms of goals and assists at the back end of last year. Ended up notching up 5 assists, picked up a couple of goals as well, so I do like Ben White. Excellent fixtures coming up. Forest at home is a really good chance for a clean sheet for Arsenal. And Ben White, when he does make those good attacking runs, he's putting good balls into the box. He's overlapping with Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. It does allow him to get into the box, pick up goals and assists. So if he can continue that sort of attacking form that he found at the back end of last season and carry that through this season, I wouldn't be surprised if he is one of the highest scoring defenders once again after coming off 156 points last FPL season. Let's move on to a side that have had some very good fixtures announced for them in their first 5 weeks of the new Premier League season. A team with fixtures that are probably sliding under the radar a little bit. I really like these Brighton players to go after here. I think Brighton have some of the best fixtures in the first 5 to 6 game weeks of the new Premier League season. And there's 3 standard options here in Matoma, March and Estupinian. I will also say Ferguson up top for Brighton this year. He'll probably be priced around 6 to 6.5. Showed some glimpses of why he could be such a good FPL option last season. Despite having injuries and getting a bit of rotation, he showed when he was playing that he is very, very efficient. And he was good at taking his chances as well. He's probably going to be spearheading that Brighton attack this year. Brighton have invested a lot in him. They expect him to do well this season. So I like Ferguson as well at 6 to 6.5 mil. He could be a steal of a forward option to go for to start the new Premier League campaign. But Matoma, March and Estupinian, 3 really good picks in their own right as well. Matoma and March were excellent options in midfield for that mid to back part of last FPL season. Matoma, first of all, his price is probably going to rise quite a bit. I expect it to be around 7 mil in midfield. 7 goals and 9 assists last season, a pretty decent output. His expected numbers per 90 and goals and assists per 90 were really, really good, as he did have reduced minutes compared to some of those other Brighton players last season. Didn't get anywhere near as many minutes as Solly March, but still managed to match him or have a very similar output of goals and assists to him last season. Had a better expected goal involvements per 90 than him. He had a 0.63 expected goal involvements per 90 compared to March with around a 0.57. And he had a slightly better XG and XA per 90. Slightly better goals and assists per 90 than March as well. So I do like Matoma. I think that's why he's going to be priced at $500,000 more than March. Slightly better expected per 90 numbers and slightly higher goal involvement per 90 numbers. He's got Luton at home, GAMEWEEK 1, a really, really good fixture to start the season. This Brighton attack was superb at the end of last year. Matoma was getting a bunch of the goals, as was March. Gross was getting in there, and Suso was scoring. Ferguson was really good for them. They have so many good attacking avenues. Matoma, really, really good stats per 90, as I previously discussed. Scored 138 FPL points last season, nearly matching a Solly March there. So I expect Matoma to be a very popular option coming into this season. Had a very, very good set of per 90 numbers last year. So I like Matoma at 7 mil. He's going to be a great pick. Solly March as well at 6.5. Had some really good underlying stats in his own right. Slightly worse than Matoma, but very, very similar in his underlying numbers per 90. So for that reason, I like March at 6.5 as well. Definitely will not be as preferred to Matoma if I had to guess. Matoma was the player with a much higher ownership throughout last season when those Brighton assets were coming into favour. So I still like Solly March as well. Probably won't get as much recognition as Matoma, but I really like March here. 7 goals and 10 assists last season. Had an excellent campaign, 17 goal involvements. a very good underlying stats as well, an 8.51 xg and a very good XA as well of 8.52. So potentially a little bit unlucky not to have more goals last season, as he couldn't quite meet his expected goals count of 8.5, just put up the 7 goals. But I do really like Solly March as well, and a Stupinian I think is a great defender to jump on as well. Brighton's defense fairly solid last year. Stupinian picked up 10 clean sheets with around an 11 expected clean sheets figure, so potentially a little bit unlucky not to get one more clean sheet last season. But Estupiñán put up a really solid amount of assists as well. One of the top assisters amongst the defenders, had the 5th highest assist for defenders, had a very good expected assist figure as well of XA of 4.48. This also ranked in the top 5 amongst defenders. His attempted assists did also rank 4th amongst defenders last season, so he has some really good stats amongst those defensive options in FPL. 128 points last season, and I expect this price to be around 5.5 when you're playing as a fullback for a side that has a decent defensive solidarity in terms of being able to pick up clean sheets. Plus, he gets forward, chips in with goals and assists. I think a Stupinian has to be priced at 5.5. He was notching up similar stats to some of those more expensive Liverpool defenders. For reference, Andy Robertson was around 7 million last season, had 1 more attempted assist than Robertson last year, had very similar expected assist numbers as well. So he is competing with some of those more premium defenders in terms of his attacking threat. So I like a Stupinator for that reason, and hopefully Brighton can pick up some early clean sheets, especially with Luton at home in game week 1. So now let's have a look at the third and final team whose fixtures I really like for the first 5 game weeks of the season, and it is the Premier League champions in Manchester City. These are 3 options that I really like from Man City. Obviously, Erling Haaland has to be on here first and foremost. I expect him to be priced around 14 mil. I wouldn't be surprised if he's even more expensive. He was so good last season, 36 goals and 9 assists. The top scoring FPL player in last year's Premier League campaign. Burnley away is a great fixture in Game Week 1, and they have a lot of really good fixtures from Game Weeks 5 through 6 as well, up until Game Weeks 5 and 6. Most of them with an FDR rating of just 2, which means they are green. So I like those Man City players. Burnley away is a great start to the season as well in terms of fixtures. Of course, Haaland has to be the most essential player in FPL in my opinion. I think regardless of his price, you just have to have him in the side. I expect him to be around 14 mil. He could potentially be 14.5 to 15, which would make him one of the most expensive FPL players in the history of the game. But I like Erling Haaland here, regardless of what price he comes in at. An XG of nearly 30 last season is absolutely monstrous. Had a 5.7 XA as well, not quite as high, but he is the main talisman for Man City. The goal scorer in their side, 36 Premier League goals is so good. 272 FPL points last season. I don't really need to sell him anymore. Haaland is such an essential pick. You just can't go without him, and wouldn't be making the mistake of starting without him in your teams this year. I think if he's priced at 14 to 15, I'd still be looking to have him in your squads. He's such an essential option. Moving on to Kevin De Bruyne as well, another Man City premium, which is worthwhile keeping an eye on. I expect De Bruyne's price to drop down to 11.5 million. Not his best season in terms of FPL point scoring, just the 183 points last year. And considering there was a lot of other players in midfield that notched up the 200 points mark, Odegaard was one of them, Saka was another one, Martinelli was very close to 200, Salah obviously got 200. When you're comparing those guys' price to De Bruyne, you just expect De Bruyne to be scoring more FPL points. 11.5 million, in my opinion, is a reasonable price for De Bruyne. 7 goals and 18 assists last season. Obviously more of a provider for Manchester City. Doesn't tend to score too many goals in a Premier League campaign. Doesn't have a great XG either last year of 4.32. He is definitely more of an assister. His 13.42 expected assists stat did rank amongst the top players in FPL last season for expected assists. So I like De Bruyne for that reason. I think his ownership should be pretty low as well. In terms of premium options, I think De Bruyne has dropped down quite a bit from being one of the top, maybe top 2, top 3 premium assets to potentially being a little bit lower down in that list. Haaland's a great pick. Salah is really good as well. And Kane, coming off being the second highest FPL point scorer last season, has to be top 2, if not top 3 premium options to go for in FPL right now. So I think De Bruyne a little bit lower on the list in terms of the best premiums to own. But with these really good Man City fixtures coming up, he could be a great differential to have in the sides. If you don't want to go for Mo Salah, maybe you prefer a punt on De Bruyne to start the season and then switch to Salah later on. That could be the way forward as well. De Bruyne, when he's getting minutes, he's incredibly productive. So he's a great player to have in. Should be a good differential compared to Mo Salah as well. So if you want to take a bit more of a risk, I think De Bruyne could definitely be an option to keep an eye on. And considering that I still have to say 183 points is not one of his best seasons, just speaks to how good De Bruyne is at a player. I think he is one of the best players in the Premier League. So for that reason, De Bruyne has to be getting a mention here. And Jack Grealish as well, I think is a third Man City option, which I would consider. In terms of their defensive picks, I can't really choose a standout option. Maybe you could go for Edison in goals, but 5.5 to 6 mil is the price I expect Edison to be at, and it's quite an expensive price for a goalkeeper, especially at the start of the season. Also, since Man City are looking to sign a Gvardiol as well, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to predict that starting Man City backline right now. They have so many good defensive options, so I think there's going to be a lot of rotation in defense. So that's why I do prefer to go for Jack Grealish. He got a lot of minutes amongst those Man City wingers, a few more than Foden and Mahrez did last season. He was a lot more consistent in getting those starts, and he did reward Pep with 10 assists last season, which was very impressive for him. Also got himself 5 goals as well. Really improved a lot last season for Manchester City, and if he can continue on the form that he had at the back end of this season into next season, I wouldn't be surprised if he can have his breakout Premier League campaign. It all sort of depends on whether Pep can trust him enough to give him more consistent minutes like he got last season, because if he's going to get rotated in and out of the team, of course he's not going to be worth the money of around 8 mil. He could be going up to 8.5 as well. But I like Jack Grealish. He's in a very, very strong Man City attack. He's going to be getting amongst the goals and assists. He really started to break out in that Man City team last year. So hopefully this season he can explode, show that form that he had at Aston Villa in terms of ability to score and create like he did at Villa for Manchester City. His underlying numbers weren't quite as high as they would be last season. A 4.39 XG and XA of just over 6. He did significantly outscore these goals and assist figures. He had 15 involvements for around 10 expected involvements. So if he can get into the box more, cut inside, get more shots off, get more chances, create more chances, I'm sure he could be one of the breakout midfielders in FPL if he can continue that form that he had at the back end of last year and build on his 121 points from last year's Premier League campaign. Thanks for watching today's players and teams to target for game weeks 1 through 5 of the new FPL season. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And leave a comment as well if you're excited for the new Premier League season. If you're new to the channel, have notification bells turned on so you don't miss any future videos in the build up to the new Premier League season. And of course, plenty of FPL videos all throughout the year. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.